When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
All right there. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, as always, Colleen Biggs. And you know, every week we're bringing experts onto this show that is going to be able to not only give you the motivation and inspiration you're looking for from this show, but really golden nuggets and actions that you can take every single week in your life to help you really take back the power to design your life. We just talked about this on the last show. If you don't remember, go back to the last show, go listen to 86, and you will hear us talk more about how you can design your life and take back that power. And today, Odile Smith is with us, and she's from overseas because, you know, I'm here in America. So we'll talk about where she's coming from. And we're talking about shifting toward a more nature-centered life. What does that mean to shift toward a more nature-centered life? And we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we do, I would love to thank our sponsor that make this podcast possible of today's show, The Adventures of Julie Jones and Get Shit Done Coaching. Are you overwhelmed and overworked with a never-ending to-do list? Do you constantly feel tired because life seems hard and your needs are nowhere near the top of your priority list? As an adventure and breakthrough coach, Julie Jones will support you in a life that is easy, effortless, and most of all, fun. Exactly what we've been talking about the last couple episodes. Stop spending time on the have-tos in life and start truly living a life of I get to. What are you waiting for? Take action. And contact Julie at either juliejones.biz or theadventuresofjuliejones@gmail.com and book a free 30-minute live out loud call with Julie. You are not going to regret that, even if it's a 30-minute call. Just to be in her circle and feel her energy is going to be an amazing time for you. And so Odile Smith is here with us today. And after 25 years in corporate as a buyer and another 8 years as sustainable buying office for multinationals, she decided to create a community called the Biophilic Hub, where people and professionals looking to shift toward a more nature-centered life can connect. So Odile, you've got to tell us all about this hub. I'm so excited. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for Colleen for having me. I'm super excited and so pleased to share this with your audience, because for me, discovering this, and it didn't happen just overnight, but overnight the kind of penny drop things which had happened over time, and then I realized what was going on, and this really shifted the way I live and the way I work, because as I said, you know, I was a buyer. I had a very exciting life. I was traveling, I was seeing all sorts of places, meeting all sorts of people. And you really had that adrenaline going all the time. So you're always on top, always on top, always on top, until you weren't anymore.
That's exactly what happens.
Until you weren't anymore. And you suddenly feel that, you know, something's not quite working between how your life has evolved and how your work has evolved. And that is when I started to get closer to nature, because for family reasons, I had 3 children. They needed the attention. One of them particularly needed also particular care. And this care came from, and it was a calling. It was a calling, because I realized that even if I went to doctors, they weren't giving me the real answers. And when I started, you know, getting closer to nature, taking him out for walks, cleaning up what was inside the house to make it toxin-free, Okay. That is when I realized things were starting to get better. But just to go one step back a bit, because it aligned with what I was trying to do in corporates, and that suddenly was not aligned anymore with corporate. So all the sustainability, which I believed in when I was in corporate and after with my buying office, and I was really fighting my battles, was not quite being heard. And that is where I found that everything was kind of matching. So I believe in sustainability much before it became the thing. And then I found out that it's not just a matter of sustainability. It's a matter of that we feel better when we are in those surroundings. Mm-hmm. So to cut a long story short, because these stories go on forever, at one point, I realized that, in fact, it was all connected. Our spaces have got to be closer to nature, have got to be cleaner and purer, I should say. Because in case you don't know it, inside our houses are much more polluted than the outside, with the amount of toxins that come out of the materials we surround ourselves with. So that is how I got into it. And then I started, I got near to understanding what biophilia is, what is biophilic design. And that really opened my eyes.
Okay, we've got to we have to jump into that. So many people I'm sure they're listening like, what is biophilic design? What is biophilia? I don't even know what that is. So do you mind just explaining that in very simple terms for everyone who's listening right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So biophilia comes from a Greek term, like a lot of words, which means love of life. Okay, so in fact, life is nature. Nature is life, and so we are naturally pulled towards it, because in fact we are nature. So if we think where we are now in terms of the evolution of the universe, we're just one dot with respect to the millions and millions and millions of years before us. Now, in all these millions of years, we were part of nature. We were living in nature, as do everything else. So it's natural that in our DNA, we are called towards it, because this is our natural setting. Okay. And that is why we feel good when we are in it. So what does biophilic design do? Biophilic design, basically, to put it really in a nutshell, it's trying to bring the outside inside. That is, I want to bring the feeling that I have when I am outside in nature inside my home, because this is my natural habitat, which makes me feel good, reduces my stress, reduces the blood pressure. There's all sorts of documentation and figures that show how people, when they are in nature or they are surrounded by natural elements or natural principles, because it's not just, putting a few plants here and there, you have reduced stress, higher concentration and creativity. It actually reduces or increases, it reduces the time that you are in hospital in healthcare, and it increases the rate of recovery. And obviously, there are all sorts of other benefits in the home and So this is, as I say, in a nutshell, this is what biophilic design is. It is the study, the principles whereby you can bring in elements of nature into our surroundings to increase our well-being. And this is what we are looking for.
Yeah.
Because we're no longer looking for just a shiny, beautiful environment if then we don't feel at ease in it.
Right.
So the first thing to do is to find and to create an environment where we feel good in. And if we feel good in, we are healthier.
And how do you do that in your own environment? Tell us some of those examples, because it's not just, like you said, putting a few plants. So explain how you do that. What are some
Absolutely.
steps?
So one of the main things, obviously, you can have several elements. You can have a direct contact with nature. You can have an indirect contact with nature, or you can create principles around which you would find in nature. So if we go for a direct contact with nature, which is the most obvious and the most immediate, it is something like bringing more daylight in. Okay, so I mean, silly things. I mean, we don't have to spend enormous budgets. I mean, we can if you want, but you can also do smaller things like, making sure you have your curtains open, cleaning, keeping your windows clean. Sunlight is one of the most important elements that we have. Because our body isn't, like all animals, follows a circadian rhythm. That is the rhythm, the natural rhythm of the rise and the fall of the sun.
Yep.
And so light is important, and get fresh sunlight first thing in the morning is the best thing. Then, of course, fresh air. So all these offices which have been designed without allowing air to flow is one of the worst things which can happen.
Yeah.
So if we are at home, the best thing would be to have windows and open the windows and let the air circulate. Water is very important. Flowing water is important. That it's got to be flowing without being too strong. And these are direct connections with nature.
Connections.
But then we have the materials inside the home that's indirect. So wood, real wood. Wood that isn't treated, that isn't varnished, that is as close to nature as possible, okay? And these stimulate all our senses, okay? Because when we see wood, did you know that if you are in a space which has at least 45% of natural wood in it, this also reduces our stress level, because it seems as if we are inside a forest, okay? So when we speak about wood, we're speaking about wood which is something which calls not only our visual senses, but if you notice, when you see a nice piece of wood, you automatically go and touch it.
Yes.
Because so it touches our haptic senses.
And it has an odor, like wood has a smell. So many of the listeners probably don't know this. When I moved into my house about 6.5 years ago, I decided to do a wall in just wood. And I got all these different just unfinished wood, different shapes and different sizes. And I put them on a full wall in my bathroom. And still to today, 7 years later, it has like this, it's a natural wood smell. You can smell it. If the door is shut for a long time and you go into the restroom and you shut the door, you can smell that natural wood smell. And I just love it. And that thing's never coming down, by the way, because of the way that I had to, glue it up there. But I will tell you that I love that natural element in my house. And that's probably the one room I get the most comments on, because there's nothing about it that's perfect or colored perfect, or it's just kind of natural.
Just is. It's natural.
Just is.
Okay. Yeah. And as a natural, we are inclined to be attracted towards it because it makes us feel good, as you said. Yeah. It touches our senses.
I love it.
And sometimes, of course, maybe you can't have a great big view, because not everybody's able to have beautiful views, but you can have beautiful pictures. Yeah. You can have beautiful patterns of, which we call nature, because in nature there's a lot of patterns. And then, of course, can be very careful of the materials which you put in, because you really do have to be careful of the materials you put in, like avoiding vinyl flooring, so natural flooring as much as possible. avoiding too many textiles which have too much plastic in it. When I took my son, the one who had the problems, I sent him to a school which is not quite a nature school, but it's a Steiner school, and they don't have any plastic in this school. It's incredible.
Wow.
Everything is wood. And it makes a difference. So you can do that. And then you can create these kind of alcoves, which is a kind of prospect and refuge, because there are some things, your reading nook. Okay, so you feel comfortable and cozy inside, but you're looking out, you're still observing. So this goes back again to our origins of when we were cavemen. We would be sitting inside our cave, but we would still, control everything on the outside. So, there's a lot of it now. I'm just obviously going over the tip of it.
Yeah.
But in this biophilic hub, and this is about biophilic design, but there are several elements. Maybe you're more interested in getting closer to nature, because going for a walk, even just 5-10 minutes a day, makes an enormous difference. Or if you can't go for a walk, what nature's therapy also says you can do is just sit and look, and really look and listen and talk. You can talk to the plants if you want, but just listen, observe. It's kind of a meditation. And this already does worlds of wonders for yourself. So we speak about that. And then, of course, there is this also. I'm not an expert in this, but I have experts speaking about it who talk about the neuroscience of beauty and nature. So all this, which we just explained, is connected all to our brain. So our brain is naturally inclined to look for beauty, because, to put it in a nutshell, what we consider beauty, so what we consider as a view, as a beautiful view, maybe, I don't know, a waterfall or a prairie or whatever, something to that extent, is that our brain defines is that something which is abundant. Okay, so we're not going to, well, not now, but at the time, a few millions of years ago, it's a place which is abundant. So we're not going to get ourselves stressed out to look for food. Okay, so the brain sees these views and relaxes. And this still happens today. So the neuroscience of beauty and architecture is really, again, connected to what we saw and what our brain got used to a long time ago in terms of relaxation, and so production of dopamine, the feel-good hormone.
There's so many
so
little
all this
things.
is on the all this is on the hub. This is where we go all together.
Okay.
And if anybody has a doubt of what they want to do in their home, tips, it's a place where peers can come together and express their experiences, their thoughts, and even bring your own project. Okay, so sometimes we have these get together, meet up, where you can bring your project and ask for, an opinion from someone else, and keep yourself updated.
Yeah. And you have that on Instagram and Facebook, right?
I have this definitely on Instagram. Okay.
Yep.
My Facebook, I don't use very much. We have a community on Circle, which you can access through the website. Okay. We've got the website called the biophilichub.com.
Okay.
And you can access the community there. And in fact, we just created a fantastic quiz, which is on the first page of the website, where you can see how biophilic am I? So how much do I actually know, and would I like to know more about it? And at the end of the quiz, obviously, we give you a few tips here and there to implement immediately, and how to find out what to do about it.
Well, I could feel like I now can pass the test to understand what biophilia is. And, there's little things you can do. There are opportunities to bring plants and nature and things into your home. And, I've seen a lot of showers, lately being built with natural rocks and those types of things, right? So upgrading those areas in our house. For instance, when I moved my office into an extra bedroom that was in my house, when I look out my window over here to my right, it was just a brown wall. And that was not good enough for me. And so I told my husband, we need to plant some plants out here that have flowers so I can see birds, so I can see hummingbirds, so I can see bees, so I can see nature at work, right? And these beautiful flowers. So we did. Out both of our windows, out the office window, out the window of this bedroom that now has been my office for several years. We planted plants out there that have beautiful flowers. And so you cannot see it from the back of my house. It isn't for anyone who's in the backyard because it's really tucked around the corner of the side of the house, but it's only for me when I'm working during the day to be able to see these beautiful flowers. So I do believe that there is so much that we can do individually in our house to create this type of feeling for ourselves, like you talked about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you feel when you look outside the window and you see this now?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love having that view. I love being able to see, like I said, hummingbirds visit me at my windows and birds visit me and bees visit me. And I just love having that there. It does. It makes me feel more connected to nature. I also have plants. I've worked with a feng shui specialist and in my office to make sure everything flowed, nicely. As you can tell, I have a wall behind me, which means that my desk faces the door of my office. So my back isn't to the door of the entry of my office. There's a lot of things that that most people can't see in my office, but I have it set up to where it supports that. And I had no idea that it was set up to support exactly what you're doing every day and bringing together these individuals. Now, are you an architect? Do you do design as well? Or do you just bring together individuals that are just like I am and, bringing in elements into our house?
No, I am not a designer or an architect. I work in the built industry, supporting them in terms of finding the right materials and things to that extent. On my team, we do have a couple of designers because sometimes we are asked to adjust some drawings. So that's something which we do, but on the whole, no, I don't do that. But I like to bring together people of the community.
Yeah. So these are easy ways that we talked about today that anyone can get in there and shift toward a more nature-centered life inside of their home, inside of their offices. So if you're in a corporate office and you can't really change the airflow that comes into your office, you can provide plants and little waterfalls and, on your desk and things that are going to bring in those elements of nature. I remember I had a box on my desk that had a little tiny rake with some sand and some, and some rocks. And I would tell you, every time someone came in my office and sat down to talk to me, they would start raking that sand with the little rake, moving the rocks around. And it just became something that people messed around with. So you can bring elements into your office, even if you don't have control of what you have outside your window, if you have a window or not, bring those elements inside, just like we talked about. And of course, the Biophilic Hub on Instagram, go follow Odile Smith and her group out there. And you can get a lot of ideas on how you can do that for yourself. So, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. And, for everyone listening, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. Create it for you. Create it to make you feel good. That's okay to do things for ourselves to feel good and put the right products in our house that, are chemical free and that support the lifestyle. And I remember I moved to all plant-based products several years ago, and I don't even burn candles anymore. I used to burn candles. I don't even burn candles anymore. I use those wax candles that have the little fake wicks, and I love them. They are timed. They go on at night. They look beautiful. They look brand new. They're always, lit and moving. And I love that. It's just so beautiful to me to bring in that soft light in areas that I can't reach, because they're just timed and they come on with timers. So again, how can you bring in nature and shift toward having more nature in your home, in your life? Walk around barefoot every once in a while outside, everybody. Put your feet in the
plants
dirt.
always good. Plants always good.
Yeah.
Pets are good.
Yeah,
Pets are good.
absolutely. All of those are good. Well, Odile, thank you so much for being a guest today on today's show. And for all of you listening, thank you again for downloading our episodes and for creating this space for us to be able to bring you information every single week, and for also assisting us in expanding our podcast to be the top 3% of global podcasts in the world. So thank you again for that. We love all of you. And we will be back next week. And as always, until we get to that point, never forget, be you and be strong. Until then, bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery, where you learned the tools to create a life by design. Remember, you are the only you there is, and you are the only you that will ever be. Be you and be strong, because you are brilliant, and the world needs you at your best. We cannot wait for you to join us again next time.